Welcome to Agrestal Tales and the story of the lonely mermaid. Lay back or sit and let your body sink down into the mattress or chair beneath you. Close your eyes, relax, and listen to my voice. In the depths of an ancient ocean, where the sunlight struggles to penetrate the murky waters, a tale is whispered among sailors and fisherfolk, a tale of the lonely mermaid. Legend has it that she was once a beautiful creature, with long flowing hair like strands of midnight and eyes that shimmered like precious pearls. But her kin shunned her after she helped a human stranded at sea, and she became twisted and cruel, blaming humankind for her abandonment. It's said that you can never escape once she has you in her sights. She will follow you wherever you go, even into your dreams. You don't believe it, of course. Mermaids aren't real. They're merely the conjuring of superstitious fisherfolk who seek to explain the unusual things they've seen at sea. And there are unusual and outlandish creatures living beneath the ocean's surface. You come across fish that look like aliens, and crabs that resemble armoured tanks on your countless deep sea dives, but never a mermaid. You'd once suggested to a weathered sailor that perhaps lack of sleep or too much rum explained the mermaid myth the islanders spoke of. He'd scoffed, his wrinkled face folding in on itself as he'd stood and glared. "You'll see," he'd muttered as he walked away. And now you suppose you would. Warm air caresses your face as you stand and turn to face the water. The moon casts its eerie glow upon the restless waves as you prop your hands onto the boat's railings and stare into the darkness. The captain has turned the boat's spotlights on, but they do nothing to penetrate the inky ocean. Night dives aren't your favourite, but the best chance to see the rare button squid is when the sun has dropped over the horizon and moonlight highlights the crests of the waves. Shaking thoughts of mermaids from your head, you stand, your body automatically adjusting to the boat's gentle back and forth sway. The wooden boards creak beneath your bare feet as you reach the stern, where all your equipment waits. You check your tanks and gauges before beginning the laborious task of pulling on your wetsuit, flippers and air tanks. You've just attached the lights to your wrist when the captain approaches. "You ready?" "Almost," you say, pulling on your goggles but leaving them resting on your forehead where they dig into your skin. You hate this in-between moment where everything feels too tight, heavy and restrictive. It's hard to move and you can't quite take a full breath. Sweat trickles down your back and all you feel is uncomfortable. You look forward to falling into the sea's embrace and feeling that lightness as you catch your weight and everything becomes effortless. The captain has already pulled in the fixed buoy that identifies where the main line is located. He attaches you to it via a slim rope tied to your waist. He then walks back to the boat's siding, waiting for your signal before tossing the red buoy back into the water with a splash. Once it's landed, you turn and walk backwards until you reach the low-seated area. You sit, pull your mask down, switch on the rebreather, and then slip the respirator into your mouth. You grip the hard rubber between your teeth and move your jaw from side to side until it settles in place. Next, you switch the headlamp and one of the wrist lights on. The other will be a backup in case there's a problem with the others. Taking a breath, you check the valve is working correctly. The warm, moist air fills your mouth and you give the captain the OK sign. Holding the respirator in place, you allow your body to fall backwards. You hit the surface with a splash and sink a few feet before returning to the surface. You again give the captain the OK sign, and when he nods, you relax your body and allow the weights to pull you down into the depths. As you descend, the water closes over you, cool but not uncomfortable. Darkness pulls in from every direction, and your lights barely punch through the murky water. Plankton floats in front of you, reminding you of a snow globe. You check the depth gauge strapped to your wrist. 10 meters. This is your favourite part. Everything is so still. The rebreather doesn't produce bubbles, which makes the dive so quiet. Just you and the sounds of the sea. The water is almost solid as it presses in from all sides, supporting your weight and holding you as you drift down, down, down. The mechanical clunking of the respirator fades into the background as the line slides through your hand and you sink further and further into the darkness. A fish starts to cross your vision, but is gone before you can turn your head to see it properly. It doesn't matter anyway. You're not here to see fish. An orange ribbon floats into view, and you know you're close to the stopping point. You adjust your buoyancy and begin to slow. At 40 meters you stop and check that your connection to the main line is still solid, and satisfied that it is, you let go. Now you can only wait and hope the squid will come up from the deep to feed. The zooplankton is plentiful tonight, so you have high hopes of seeing them. Minutes passed and the current has carried you away from the main line, which you can no longer see. You float, relaxed and at peace, almost lulled into sleep. Time has no meaning down here in the deep. It moves neither fast nor slow, but at its own pace. Occasionally, you check your watch, only out of necessity, not desire. 2 hours pass before the first button squid appears. The mollusk is the size of a large grape and glows yellow in the dim lamplight. It whizzes past you too fast to make out details. But you're not worried. They never hunt alone, and more will come. And they do. First 2, then 5, and then a dozen dancing through the current. You're so distracted by the squid that you don't notice the dark tendrils of thin seaweed floating on either side of your mask. Something thumps against your tank, and your first startled thought is shark. It happens again and you twist around to see what it is. There's nothing there but floating zooplankton and button squid. You lift your wrist to point your light at chest height. It does little to penetrate the murky water, but coupled with the headlamp, it gives you enough light to see a few feet. You slowly turn, your flippers working against the water to control the speed. Nothing. If there's one thing all divers know, it's that you never take risks underwater, and you'd already risked too much by diving alone. Something big had definitely touched you, and you had no clue what it might be. Perhaps whatever it was had been drawn to the light, and you wondered if you should switch off the lamps. But no, you'd rather see than be plunged into darkness and not know what was out there. Deciding to finish the dive early, you reach for the safety line tied to your waist. You grasp it and begin to swim towards the main line. The light on your wrist bobs as you reach hand over hand, travelling along the rope. It feels looser than it should be, and even as you have that thought, you make it to the end. It's frayed, cut, and not attached to the main line. Blind panic rushes through you. The rope isn't attached. Why isn't it attached? Where is the main line? Your eyes glance back at the cut end, its strands waving in the current. What cut the rope? The panic rises again and you try to control your breathing. Your heart is thudding in your chest and you can feel the rapid beat pumping into your ears. Stay calm, you remind yourself. Rise to the surface before the current takes you too far from the boat. You can use your lights to draw the captain's attention once you're up. With a plan in mind, you begin to kick slowly upwards, checking your gauge so you don't rise too fast and risk decompression sickness. 5 minutes slip by and you begin to settle. But then something large darts past you so fast you feel the water push against you in its wake. You stop swimming and look in the direction it disappeared in. There's something there, just beyond the light's reach. You can barely see the shape of it, but it's there, hovering in place. Sharks don't hover. Cautious, you keep your gaze on the blurry outline and slowly reach for your weights. All thoughts of a slow ascent fade from your mind. You need to get to the surface and you need to reach it now. You unclip one of the weights and immediately begin to rise. As you fumble for the second weight, the shape moves towards you. It's unclear at first, the plankton giving it a blurry appearance. But as it floats closer, it becomes sharper and more distinct. And it doesn't make sense. You regard the creature in disbelief. A beautiful face, long flowing hair the colour of midnight. A fishtail. Mermaid, your mind whispers. You go numb, all thoughts leave your head and your body feels shaky and weak. She swims nearer until only an arm's length separates you. Her pale eyes study you with interest, as you might study a strange underwater mammal you've discovered unexpectedly. Time seems to slow as you watch each other, but then her expression changes. It turns cold and sly. She smiles, displaying needle-sharp teeth capable of cutting strong rope. A shiver of fear runs down your spine. You remember the stories told by the villagers. They never ended well. You're barely aware that you're still rising until you stop moving and you continue to float upwards and away from her. Is she allowing you to leave? You glance down and she's no longer in sight. Another minute passes, just you and the syrupy water. But then the mermaid darts in from the side, knocking into you and causing you to spin. For a breathless moment, you don't know which way is up or down. Your wrist light no longer works, and your tanks feel out of place, now tucked under your right armpit. The buoyancy takes over and rights you. Yet a second later, you're hit again. She's playing with you. You quickly drop another weight, and you seem to shoot upwards. It's too fast to be safe, but you have no other options. Webbed hands wrap around your ankle, halting your movement. You kick with your other foot, trying to dislodge the mermaid, but the flipper and water make it impossible to strike with any force. You look down at the mermaid's face. She's smiling, her pointed teeth prickling her lips. Her hair swirls around her narrow features, and beyond that you can see her tail swaying lazily back and forth. Your mind goes silent again, and resignation creeps into your brain. You know what's going to happen, and you know there is nothing you can do to stop it. Her hand tightens around your ankle, pulling you down into the deep. You make one last feeble effort to free yourself, but lose your flipper in the chaos. It floats upwards as you are pulled down, down, down. The water cools and the building pressure is pressing against your chest. Your arms float feebly above you, reaching for the surface you'll never see again. At one point you hear a whale calling out to its pod in the distance. Perhaps it's telling them about the mermaid and the human prey she's dragging into the deep. Whatever it's saying, it sounds hauntingly beautiful. Your thoughts are slower now, jumbled and slipping around like wet eels. Each breath you take is louder, raspier. It's harder to keep your eyes open. Soon the rebreather will reach its limit and you'll begin to succumb to hypoxia. Maybe that's the best end you can hope for. You're unaware you've stopped until you feel something solid at your back. Opening your eyes shows you perched on a rocky outcrop with large coral formations sprouting from its rugged terrain. You turn your head and see twisted shapes caught up in the branches. Confused, you look at the nearest one to you. Their bodies. Large chunks are missing, and some are nothing more than skeletons. Sponges have made their homes inside the chest cavities. Tiny fish swirl around them, nibbling at exposed skin. You feel numb, empty. Your mind can't seem to process what you're seeing. The mermaid tucks you into the coral, snapping several pieces, weaving them over and under your body, trapping you. By the time she's finished, you're wedged in tight, unable to move anything but your fingers and toes. She drifts backwards, her hair floating around her head so thickly you can't even see her face. And then, with a flick of her tail, she's gone, swallowed by the ocean, and you find yourself alone in the cold, deep sea. You don't mind that so much. The water has never scared you. If you stare straight ahead, you can almost pretend you're still attached to the line like before and waiting for the squid to appear. But then your headlamp starts to fade and sputter before finally going out, plunging you into an absolute darkness. Now the ocean doesn't feel comforting anymore. It feels big and cold and dangerous. You can't see anything. You're trapped in the coral. Your rebreather will stop working soon, and you're surrounded by the dead. You close your eyes, seeking to convince your brain that it's only dark because your eyes are shut. You're not trapped in coral, but lying in bed with a blanket draped over you. When that doesn't stem the rising panic, you begin to count backwards from 100. 100. 99. 98. 97. 96.